Mike, you've spoken about Ivan Taylor for a good amount of time. You told us that he made an official visit to Alabama and then Michigan. So anytime you hear that, even novice recruiting fans know this might get a little too interesting, and the Irish commit has decided to go elsewhere. Give us your side of the story.
Yeah, it's interesting, Darren, because you got to go back like a decade or so to find the last Notre Dame commit who took official visits while committed to the Irish and then stuck with that commitment. It just doesn't happen. This one did have some feelings to it, Darren, that was like, man, this is the one for the Irish. This is the one that they're going to be able to keep. But shame on me, I guess, for thinking that. So he ends up flipping to Michigan, kind of just Darren, I was actually on the phone with Mike Goolsby before we started recording this. He called me. We were talking about the Taylor thing, and I told him, I was like, I would get if you were to leave Notre Dame for Bama, or you want to stay close to home, Florida. Michigan, I mean, I don't know if folks want to hear this, but I mean, Notre Dame and Michigan have similarities in terms of the institution. They're not mirrors of each other, but just the location, right? Good academics. It was just kind of an interesting move. So the Chris O'Leary, him leaving for the Chargers, that played a role. I think that's what started it. Just Jadon Blair committing to the Irish impact Taylor. I think it did a little bit. Wow. Maybe that was a way for Taylor to, or maybe that was like a cherry on top of what he already wanted to do. Maybe just Notre Dame wasn't the best fit for Ivan Taylor at the end of the day. So, there's no way to deny that this one stings for the Irish, Darren. Notre Dame, this wasn't one of those, Notre Dame didn't want him anyways, or, we got processed out. Nothing like that. Notre Dame fought to the end to keep him in the class. But, this is just a straight-up recruiting loss for Notre Dame. He's going to one of their biggest rivals on the Twitter space and on the recruiting trail. So that is true. All of those things are true. But what we're about to talk about next, Darren, it's not the biggest loss in the world because of that. Like, if you look at the receiver position, Darren, Notre Dame has 2 commitments from pretty good players, but they can't really afford many recruiting losses. Like, it's in a tough spot. Notre Dame DB recruiting is so good right now that you lose one and you're still like, this still might be one of the best DB classes the Irish have signed in quite some time, at least when you look on paper.
Mike, can't you make an argument that down the line schematically that Taylor and Blair could have been on the field at the same time?
That's what I've been saying. It doesn't that's why I don't really buy that, but maybe it was just like, I'm kind of looking for a way out anyways. And this can kind of be that cherry on the top because Taylor is your guy who can move around. Like we saw him last summer at Notre Dame's Irish Invasion Camp, working out at corner. He can play nickel. He can really do anything in the defensive backfield. Blair is, not to say he's going to be this guy, but stylistically he's Kyle Hamilton. And you don't play with just one safety on the field. You play with 2. Heck, you can play with 3. Taylor can just do so many different things. So it's kind of like, Darren, you have a 5'10" slot receiver and a 6'5" boundary receiver. They do different things. They're both receivers, but they're totally different wide receivers.
Okay, let's move on to Jadon Blair. Recently picked the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Massive news for the class of 2025.
It is. So you get this news on July 5th, his 17th birthday, which makes him, by the way, one of the younger prospects in his class. So he's like, I turned 17, I think like the 3rd or 4th day of my junior year. He's turning 17 just before the start of his senior year. So just to kind of show that he already looks so impressive, 6'4.5", 195 pounds verified, very well-spoken, super smart kid. And he's like up to a year younger than other guys in his class. Picked the Fighting Irish over Michigan and Penn State. So it's like Michigan got one on Notre Dame for Ivan Taylor. but we're going to ignore, hey, Michigan fans, if you're watching, we're going to ignore Jadon Blair. Like, Michigan thought he was going there for a while. Like, it seemed they did do a good job in the recruitment, but Notre Dame got that one done. Penn State looked like an early team to beat in his recruitment as well. But, the Irish, despite that loss of Chris O'Leary, and look, Blair told me after O'Leary left, he was thinking about like, hey, just kind of dropping Notre Dame on his list. And they moved down to like 3 or 4, Michigan and Penn State. But then he has a super strong relationship now with Mike Mickens, Al Golden, of course, Marcus Freeman and Chad Bowden. So, the staff, made up for some lost ground there in a big way. We just talked about him a minute ago. Blair is like Hamilton ended up, I think if you look at the Notre Dame roster from his junior year, 6'4", 220. Blair is at 6'4.5", 195 right now. The body type is similar. The playing style is similar as that guy who can be that deep third safety, deep half safety, but can also come up and run support. Like at the beginning of his junior tape, it's him in run support, coming up and making stops on these little swing passes and some runs. He can do it all from the safety position. Again, a different player than Ivan Taylor in terms of style, but yeah, just as good, if not better. Blair, I mean, in terms of rankings, different sites have their different opinions. On3's higher on Blair than Taylor. Others are flipped. Blair, the number 51 overall player and number 3 safety, according to On3's new 2025 rankings that dropped Monday, July 8th. So huge commitment for the Fighting Irish. It would be interesting, Darren. Someone asked me on the Blue and Gold message board today, if Blair would have gone to Michigan, would Taylor have stuck with the Irish? Maybe. We'll never know. But kind of an interesting subplot, sub-note, if you will, on the whole situation. So yeah, Jadon Blair committing to Notre Dame. It's a big deal for the Irish. A top target on the board for quite some time. Notre Dame beat out Michigan, Penn State, Florida State, South Carolina, Louisville, a handful of others on his list.
Mike Singer talking Notre Dame football recruiting on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel and on Budweiser's weekday sports beat. I don't know if you want to use rankings from On3 or just your opinion, but a lot of people felt like Taylor was the best recruit in the 25 class. Some said that. Defensively, who is now the premier player in the class? Is it Blair?
I think that depends on who you talk to. I mean, you have Chris Burgess is in the conversation, the defensive end from Chicago Simeon. He's definitely right there. And then I would go to the defensive backs. Mark Zachary would have a case. I personally would say it's Dallas Golden or Jadon Blair, and I'd probably lean Dallas Golden, who is probably the pound-for-pound best athlete in the class. He could play. I mean, I know Mike Goolsby thinks that he could play wide receiver, probably even better than defensive back. So I would go Dallas Golden, but that's a good question, Darren.
Okay, so Mike, we've got Taylor's going to Michigan. Blair's a part of the Fighting Irish family. What's next in defensive back recruiting?
So you got 3 cornerbacks committed in Dallas Golden, who we just talked about, Mark Zachary. That combo right there alone for 2 corners is maybe I need to go through and do all this research. That sounds like a good one. Things slow down a little bit in August or later this month. Some research project, but I mean, that is as good as it gets for the Irish. And really any school, like 2 top 100 type talents. Cree Thomas and most years would be Notre Dame's top corner. He's the number 3 guy according to the rankings, but Cree Thomas is outstanding as well. Had some big time offers before he committed to Notre Dame several months ago. He's from the same high school as Ben Morrison, and Thomas and Morrison have some similar playing styles. So you got the 3 corners. Then you got 2 safeties in Ethan Long and Jadon Blair, who are, I mean, when Ethan Long committed, I mean, he's a 3-star guy right now, but Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan offers. So big time prospect from that standpoint. And when he committed, we were talking about Kyle Hamilton comparisons as well, because he's another one of those long, lanky safeties who can cover a lot of ground. So you got 5 defensive backs committed, all seem solid in their respective recruitments, Darren. And I know you're going to find this one interesting because I don't know if we've talked about him. Brandon Logan from Fort Wayne Snyder, Vanderbilt baseball commit right now. He's been focused on baseball really his entire athletics career, and just a multi-sport athlete. Started playing football and got a couple offers. I don't know when he started playing football, but again, baseball is his primary sport. He didn't really do football camps. I don't think he has a ton of private football training. Hasn't been his main focus. Gets offers in football from Iowa and Indiana. His coach urges him, hey, why don't you go out to Notre Dame's Irish Invasion camp? So he goes out about a month ago now, runs 2, not one, Darren, 2 sub 4.5 40-yard dashes. I don't think this kid is training for the 40-yard dash. Just wakes up, drives up to South Bend, runs a couple 4.4s, and then had a strong day at the camp. So Notre Dame is very interested in him. So when he announced an offer from the Irish a few weeks ago, my understanding was like a Jordan Faison type deal where you can come in on one sport, but hey, you're on scholarship there, full scholarship. And this is kind of a semantics thing. Like, this may not be the most important thing, but I know people are really interested in this, the scholarship allocation stuff. So Faison comes in on a lacrosse scholarship, but the second he played against, I think it was Louisville, he moves into full football scholarship. I think that was kind of what Logan was going to do. But with Taylor out, Logan, I believe, is a full football scholarship guy now for Notre Dame. Got a borderline 4-star ranking on 3, just ranked him for the first time on Monday. Number 40 safety. We're going to have to look at this together, Darren, because I'm not sure. So he's actually ranked higher than Ethan Long at the safety position. And Long, we just talked about, had Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. He's a number 52 safety according to On3, whereas Logan is now the 40th. So, again, Darren, how long have we been doing these interviews? Years now, right? Years, 4 years. I know. Oh, Mike Singer's trying to sell me on a 3-star guy. You can say whatever you want. That is your right. I'm just telling you, the kid is committed to Vanderbilt baseball. Darren, you're a baseball guy. How good's Vanderbilt baseball?
Vanderbilt, the last 10 years, I would say top 5 program in the country.
Pretty darn good. Runs 2 sub 4.5s at Notre Dame. And then he did 2023 Irish Invasion 2, and I think ran 4 in the 4, like high 4.5, low 4.6, like 4.57 to 4.62 at range. And he hasn't even, like, he had a good junior season in football, like really good. One of the top athletes in the state of Indiana. Football is just his secondary sport. I mean, just imagine if he really focuses on football. So pretty interesting, Darren. Pretty interesting.
Do you know, is he a position player or a pitcher? And there's a reason why I'm asking.
Outfield. He's an outfielder.
Okay, because we have seen a lot of pitchers have a much easier time doing the football-baseball combination. The Jeff Samardzija, of course, comes to mind. Cole Kmet had great success. When you're a position player, it's just a little more difficult because the pitcher, you pitch once a week and then you're done. But obviously the Golden Tates, the Hunters, it's a little more difficult being a position player. But it can be done. That's for sure. And with the way the baseball program is right now, they could use all the elite help they can get at this time. So that would be a big get for baseball too.
Notre Dame has a great track record. It's so interesting, Darren. Like, Notre Dame has this track record of like brothers playing at Notre Dame, right? Now it's this like Notre Dame NFL legacy thing. And then you have Notre Dame and multi-sport athletes. Like, these are just things that I think make Notre Dame so unique. Right? Like, Notre Dame is so unique for multitude of reasons, but those 3 I find fascinating.
I think hockey is up to 14, 15, 16 different sets of brothers who have played for the program. And of course, lacrosse, the Kavanaughs helped them win the last 2 national championships.